Good afternoon and welcome to the Capital Investment Committee meeting of May 26th. And I'm going to call the roll first. Alderman Blanton.
Here.
Alderman Brown.
Here.
And Alderman Hanson.
Here.
And Alderman Berger here. And Eric Stuckey is coming on in. Yeah. All right. Number one, may I have approval of the minutes, consideration of approval of minutes from April 28th, 2022.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any comments on the minutes?
None.
All right. All in favor? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger? Passes 4-0. New business. Number two, consideration of grant water availability for 1381 Old Hillsborough Road. Take it away.
Good afternoon. Michelle sends her regrets for not being able to make it. She had a conflict with something going on. So anyway,
That's how this happens.
I was going to
That's
say
usually how that happens.
I think it would have been too much information. So back to the item. Thank you, sir.
Talk away while I'm going to turn
This is a water availability request north of the city limits. It is within our water service area. It's for 6 single-family unit equivalents for a residential development. I will say the availability request shows 1.5 inch meter. That's a mistake. Staff is getting an updated availability request right now.
So, motion to approve with, I have a question.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
How
Alderman Blanton.
is this in our water availability?
So
I mean, I know we just started working on that fix on the old Hillsborough Road area. Is that why?
no, this has been in our service area since a long while. I don't know the year, but we have a vault up at the Sneed Road, Hillsborough Road intersection.
Okay.
And we have water service area from, that's really the northernmost point, and then it goes it straddles Hillsborough Road as it comes into town. So
Wow, okay.
it seems pretty far north, but it is within our service area.
Same question, because I thought the one we just did there at the intersection.
Well, we're doing that improvement.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was the furthest, so.
Near the vet, yeah, it goes another half mile. whatever it is.
Interesting, okay. Learn something every
All
day.
right. Any other comments, questions? Do you have a motion? Oh,
We did that. That's why I spoke.
Sorry. We already had a motion. All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. Agenda item number 3. Consideration of draft resolution 2022-36, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to approve agreements and the use of condemnation, if necessary, to acquire right-of-way and/or easements for the Bicentennial Park.
So as part of the Bicentennial Park project, we're doing improvements to North Margin Street. Honestly, we're chopping a good chunk of that property off anyways. And looking at little L-shaped.
Where exactly is that?
At that hard curve.
Little gravel
Where
spot
it
there.
curves,
Yeah.
where North Margin.
Margin.
Basically, if Second Avenue kept going straight to the north, it would drive
Okay,
right
right
through the
there.
property.
Okay, that's where we are. Okay.
And there's an exhibit from the plans in the folder. Ultimately, there's a huge drainage ditch that goes through it. There's a Middle Tennessee electric easement. It's pretty much an unbuildable lot in our opinion. It's in the floodway and floodplain. If you go down one more slide, you can really see how much the roadway takes up of that property. Our thought was with
that's
the
safe.
potential for future parking or whatever we do over there, it just makes sense at this point before we do the improvements to make that acquisition. We did just get the appraisal back. It's about $165,000 what it appraised at. So we're requesting approval that Eric could settle that if successful, if not, to utilize condemnation prior to construction. Where the project's at right now, we're getting ready to make our submittal to the department review team. And once we get through the department review team, which will be anywhere from 3 to 5 months, this project will be ready to bid. So we need to get the right-of-way settled so that we don't delay construction
So
of the project.
somebody else owns that property?
We have them surrounded, basically, but they own that full help.
They own that one in the junkyard to the
Yeah,
east of
just-
Second.
Yeah.
It's the
below it.
former Mickey Mitchell property.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna ask if it was inappropriate to ask who, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
now I know.
Now, he sold it. There's somebody else.
It's
that
a different
owns it
owner.
now, Different owner
There's a-
now.
Yeah, it was a different owner. He sold that a long time ago.
But our thought is, and based on the appraisal too, the highest and best use is parkland essentially, and could be used for spillover parking long-term if and when we ever do that phase. So now would be the time to just make the full acquisition versus trying to buy a small portion of it.
Yeah.
Well,
So we
I will
recommend
move to approve.
approval.
You don't anticipate any resistance?
Yes, we do.
I do anticipate resistance, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yes.
Not over the acquisition, but over
The
value.
Value.
We think
I'm
they've
sure,
got
I'm
an
sure.
inflated
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
in
Did
mind.
we have
Yes.
we have a
Motion to
motion? We have a
approve.
second?
Second.
All right. We really need to get our motions before our discussions, but, so are there any other questions on this parcel? Okay. All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. All right, moving right on. We can move on. Hello. All right, number 4, consideration amendment to City of Franklin Contract 20190124, a professional service agreement, Kimberly Horn and Associates, for the Harlansdale main barn at a lump sum cost increase of $3,500.
So fairly small amount. However, the overall contract is over our threshold, so we have to come to the board. But really what it is we ask for a little bit of additional structural evaluation to accommodate some of the architectural requirements that the Parks Department is trying to incorporate into that main barn. And very small amount. Where the project's at today is it's already been submitted to the Building and Neighborhood Services, going through building permit review, so we are getting very close to being able to bid this project and very excited to be able to move that forward. Happy to answer any
All right,
questions.
do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
All right, any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. Number 5, consideration of draft ordinance 2022-15, an ordinance to replace City of Franklin, Tennessee Transportation and Streets Technical Standards 2022 edition as adopted by the reference in Title 16, Chapter 11, Section 16-1101 of the Franklin Municipal Code.
So I'm going to introduce Joe Marlowe. I think most of you know him. He's one of our senior engineers in the department, and he is taking the lead in our street specifications. So I'll turn it over to Joe.
Yeah, this is a very minor update. The impetus is back in August of last year, the full board approved the revisions to the Comprehensive Transportation Network Plan, and really since the street specifications work hand in hand with that plan, we're essentially just bringing this up to speed to match what we've done there. There's some other minor administrative things, but it's all very minor in nature, and that's really about all there's to it. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All right, second, anybody?
Second.
All right. Discussion on this.
That was not a small read, thank you. I couldn't find what the driveway left turn, I'm sure it's minor, but that was the only thing I found the rest of the stuff that we sort of updated, but I didn't find that update.
Yeah,
so-
that was already in there. We were just updating it. If you have it's very few and far between. If you have a 2-lane arterial right now, somebody's putting a driveway on it. There's a traffic study that needs to be done to determine if we need to have stacking length in a left turn lane. And what this does is, we already had that in there. This gives Paul the ability to kind of take a look at that himself and make the final decision. And that's really all there is to it. It's very minor.
Gotcha. Can I ask a question about the traffic studies?
One
Absolutely.
question per customer.
Absolutely. I may ask
Not
Adam
really
to
in
come
the
up here,
scope of
but
this, but
He's
since
a
I,
paying-
Yeah.
since I did read a thing,
He's a paying
now I'm a
customer.
little more informed, so I just out of curiosity. So I get that, all right, so we have a threshold,
Here
1,000.
comes Adam.
yeah.
Awesome. 1,000 to qualify to do the study, right? So what about, I'll use a real tangible example. So let's talk about Mallory Station for a second. The new development going in. I know that the prediction is
Yep.
they're gonna go out either side and it's not gonna overload that intersection from Morningside. Except that I would argue that since Mac Hatcher's been put in, there's a lot more cut through happening on Mallory Station than ever was before. In addition to we now have this new development going in to be determined whether or not they do the behaviors that we think they're going to do coming in and out of there. The numbers in that initial study don't reach the threshold, to validate a study, except that I would argue that a lot's changed around there in addition to that development coming in. What trigger do we have to be able to say we'd still like to understand the traffic flow in that area, especially given that we've got, senior communities pulling out. That left hand, I literally went over there the other day and I literally just sat there in front of that construction and watched. It is that something bad's going to happen at that intersection.
Yep, I agree.
So
So with that,
is there a mechanism in this
Yeah,
to
we-
be able to say, hey, I know it doesn't meet the threshold, but we have a concern here to still do?
Right.
never rule it.
And we will look at safety aspects. That's part of a part of our guidelines is that it must look at safety aspects. At the time that the development plan came through, it didn't meet those thresholds and we didn't have a safety problem or a volume problem. I'll tend to agree with you because I go home that way every night. So, yes, I know the volume has picked up dramatically on
Yeah.
Mallory Station.
Big time.
So it's definitely something we could go back and
And
study and look
I've
at.
talked to that HOA to say, I don't see us needing to do it until the development's done. Let's see what that traffic actually is doing there. So I wouldn't want to do it before they're complete and we've got move-ins. But I think it's worthwhile to look at, and I realize we may not stick a light there, given how close it is to Franklin Road and all that, but, whether or not there's a left-hand,
George Patton.
right now, we've got the blocked-off median, whether or not there's an opportunity to make a safe left-hand turn into that median section, merge out. I just think we need to look at something in that area, or at least study it to validate.
Yeah, we always have the authority to require a traffic study, especially if it's just safety-driven.
Okay.
And we look at that on a case-by-case basis, but the key is we have to do that prior to entitlements. So at the time this came forward, or time of development comes forward, we can only take into account developments that have been approved. We can't forecast other developments. We take into what's approved, the background traffic, and factor that in. But there are cases where, a signal is close to being warranted, but we're not comfortable putting it in based off of a theoretical warrant, because a lot of traffic engineering, you're making assumptions as to which way people are going to go and travel.
Right.
Hopefully, they're educated assumptions, and that's why we have a third party that helps us review it. But we can certainly always go back and reevaluate it after the fact, and if something's warranted or change is warranted, we can bring that forward as part of a budget request.
I think that's one that you'll hear us bring at some point here once that development's done. I think it's worth looking at for sure, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll certainly look
Thank
at
you.
it.
Well, I think too, you have to take into consideration, you've got 3 developments over there that are all senior. And that, to me, that puts a wrench in the whole thing. I mean, whether it's warranted or not, you have to consider that, because that's unique. You got 3 senior developments right in a row. So that's got to have some kind of consideration.
Plus the component of the Mac Hatcher.
Yep.
Yeah.
that
Combination. I
too.
mean, the background traffic
You
kind
have
of changed.
both
It
of
did
those.
change.
So we may need to take a fresh look at that. And I think when the development's complete makes sense, because then you'll
Right.
have a better sense of all the pieces of it.
All right. All in favor? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Brown, Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. All right, we have number
Too quick.
6, waiting on the thing to load. Consideration of ordinance 2022-07, an ordinance to
Thank
establish
you, Adam.
Thank you.
always stop control at the intersection of Culberson Boulevard and Shawnee Drive.
Give Adam the credit. He's the one that did the study. It's warranted. so-
Randy asked for the study.
Alderman, yep.
Yeah, we got to give those poor people a bone, and yes.
So he's recommending
So
approval.
thank you. You are?
Okay,
Yes, I am. It does meet always stop warrants. So
finally.
marginally, but it does meet the always stop
Jeez.
warrants. Absolutely.
All right. Do I
I'll
have
make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any
So,
any
yeah.
more discussion?
Yes, I just want to say, I'm glad that it meets what we need, because I think it's a prime time to make this change, as you have the infill development going on over there. I do think the existing neighbors have really, tried to explain their concern about it, and I cannot wait to make a phone call when we leave here and let them know that, that if that's okay. And because I'm sure they're not watching, and there's not going to be a news story, but I think
may be
it's going to
watching.
be a very welcome thing for that whole area. So I'm glad it worked out.
We were actually surprised that there's a high number of pedestrians there crossing that crossing, and it is an
And it's only going to
uncontrolled crossing.
increase, really.
Correct, that's correct.
Yeah, you're adding a lot of.
Thank you so very much.
One quick thing, this will take two readings, so you'll have, this one should be done first part of July, we should be able to implement this.
Oh, good. That's good to know. Thank you. I get to call Ginger the Pie Lady.
All right, and then the last item,
And Eric.
did we,
We need to
do we
vote.
need a vote? We need a vote. All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. Number 7, capital projects dashboard and status update. Ooh,
What is that?
Actually, I
Okay.
was just gonna share with you, something I was gonna share last week, and we just didn't have the time, and actually, it's gonna do slideshow, so I'll just do it the old-fashioned way.
That's
Click through 'em
Lewisburg
myself.
Pike?
This is Lewisburg Pike. So this is what it looked like back in March when they initially started excavating, and I'll try to highlight with the cursor on the screen. What you're seeing at the bottom are some of the original abutments, the stone abutments from some of the older bridges that were there. So that shows how deep down Lewisburg Pike embankment that those original abutments were, and those are stacked stone abutments from some of the original bridges. And what, I've actually had a little time to spend with, very brief amount of time with the archaeologists that's out on site. So TDOT actually hired an archaeologist to spend time with the crews that are out there. Much to their chagrin, they don't always like that when there's an archaeologist out there watching everything they do. But they have promised to share that report with us when they're done, so they are documenting everything they're doing out there. They found what they believe to be remnants of the original bridge that was built in the mid to late 1800s that allowed access to the Carton plantation
oh,
area.
wow, that'd be awesome.
They're saving some stones from that, the Carton area is, to do some interpretive work with those on their site. We believe after this, and I'll show some additional pictures here, that back in the night, and there's what the excavation looks like. So when we talked about why we couldn't keep the roadway open, this is the level of excavation that it took out there. So we're looking upstream from the exit of Carton, Eastern Flank Battlefield. This is why, so those are full-size excavators in the background sitting up on the current roadway bed, and those would be fully covered if I put them in that hole, so.
It's cool.
This is the footing and my finger over the camera lens too, so, yeah, it was a quick shot. I didn't want to fall in the hole, so.
I was like, where?
This is, yeah, so, yeah, up in the top corner. But what you're seeing is the start of them pouring the footer, or forming for the pour of the footer. And actually, oddly enough, these long wings are just the footer themselves. The only part of the actual bridge that's the new culvert going in is this section right in the center. It's on, the new culvert is only 10 feet wide. It's 10 feet wide and 16 feet tall. So the rest of that is wing walls to help stabilize the new bridge. And let's see, so there's looking downstream on the river side where the stream lets out in the river. It shows you how deep that is with the excavator crawling out. This is what they actually found underneath. So the very top of this in the background, it was actually the existing road bed sitting on top of a concrete slab of about 6 inches thick. So not much thicker than what we pour concrete sidewalk today, with one simple strand, or not strand, but one simple mesh of reinforcement steel in the middle. And below that, where you can see this a small Sonic cup. It's what our official measurement size is Sonic cups.
Very technical.
Yeah, it's very technical, with the straw. The steel beams below that, that was the bridge that was actually installed, we believe, in the 1920s, 1930s by what would have been the Bureau of Roads or Department of Roads, so the precursor to TDOT. So when they actually replaced what was out there in the 1800s, so that was the 100-year-old bridge that was actually supporting all of the traffic over Lewisburg these previous years, so. And you can actually see the kind of the caverns underneath there. We now know why we saw that settle every so often. So the deck was actually deteriorating, and every time we would fill material in, it slowly worked its way and settled through under the concrete deck and would eventually make its way into the river probably, or into the embankment. This is actually the abutment through and I know I'm spending a lot of time, this is very interesting, I apologize.
Yeah, we like it.
Very cool stuff, I thought I'd share it.
20
Yeah.
minutes, you've got time.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So what you see in the background is actually the culvert that actually caused it to back up. The latest culvert from probably the 60s or 70s, which oddly enough is the one we have the least information about, is the most recent culvert that was put in there. Is a 4-foot corrugated metal culvert, which is obviously about 60 or 70% plugged and filled, which is why it backs up there all the time with all the sludge and kind of muddy, mucky material and debris that you see clogged up there. But what you're seeing here to the right on the picture where my cursor's blinking is all the stacked stone, and this would have been where TDOT added on, or Bureau of Roads added on in the 20s or 30s. So that original stacked stone that would have been in the corner down here from the 1860s, 70s, or even earlier, they actually came back through and added on. So both sides of the bridge where those beams were laid across were actually sitting on stone abutments that were mechanically cut, which was how they built bridges very often. So they actually put those in there. They were mechanically cut and quarried stones, but those were put in there, and I was told they were basically hand grouted in there. It was very solid and dug through there. That was straight across, but it was all the way through the embankment. So very solid. So that's why the bridge has lasted so long.
Wow.
So it was very well put in there, very well constructed, and they've been digging that out. Again, just another view of the pipe that they're digging out. And there's the cavern underneath the. You could actually, someone could crawl underneath that cavern. Part of that has been underneath Lewisburg Pike to some extent. So that's where some of the material was going and making its way underneath the concrete deck.
Oh, the media's here.
He heard about the stop sign.
That was a bit of show and tell I wanted to offer today.
No, that's
That's kind of where, like, if we'd had enough time, I really wanted to swing up there and show you. It's like, this is the real reason why it couldn't stay open.
And sort of a bridge through the years.
So
kind
given all of
yeah.
your wonder, and I appreciate, that's great, I love knowing that. How has our finish date changed, or has it?
So far, the finish date, we have still not been told that it has changed. The finish date has still been told to us at the end of June.
Yeah.
do
I got a
believe
little,
it'll
I got a
push.
little different report
And I was
from.
going to say, I do believe
from,
that it's
Lewisburg
pushed.
Pike, Mr.
Yeah,
Lawrence.
Jerry Hatcher, who's our Assistant Streets Director and former TDOT person, told us in a meeting this morning that he thinks it's going to go 2 more weeks into July. So mid-July is more likely at this stage. So we're seeing that in a number of projects, just
I will say,
issues.
considering the level of involvement from archaeological documentation, that's still very, very good. The contractor they have out there doing the bridge work right now is really a go-getter and really will get that work done as quickly as he can. The only thing that would really affect the work at this point, now that they've gotten everything dug out and excavated, is obviously.
Finding something?
I don't expect them to find anything at this point because they've got what they needed to dig out done. They've
Okay.
got the relocation work done with, it was a water main or sewer main. I can't remember which one. Mark, if he's still here. He left. No, he's still there. Was it a water main or sewer main they had to relocate, Mark? Do you remember? Water main. They've already got that done. The only thing that would hold them up at this point would be like a flash flood out in the area. Obviously, we are in springtime. It's
We don't have those.
Yeah, we don't have those at all in Tennessee, but, so that would be the major complication
we'll
at this
say
point.
August.
The contractor they've got out there is very competent at doing these things. He's really good on top of things, so have a lot of confidence in them. So a 2-week slide in this particular case with what they've
Not bad.
dug out there.
Yeah, for
We
the
did not
scale of
expect,
it.
we did not expect the scale of what they dug out.
So while we're on road projects taking a little bit longer,
Yep.
may I ask a question, Bill?
Sure, go ahead.
So, I mean, I know it's May, but how are we doing on Franklin Road considering?
Yeah, we wanna-
Look, Eric, your face.
When is the
Considering
deadline? What's
pilgrimages and
happening?
We got some,
September.
we got some news today.
No,
Okay.
no.
That it's pushing out beyond the end of July timeframe. I don't know that we can give you an exact date, but we have clearly identified September 23rd, which is the Friday before pilgrimage,
Oh, dear
as being
Lord.
critical.
Yes.
So we're making sure that that's known. I think the challenge is, and the challenge we see a number of places is, this case, it's not supply chain, it's labor, and having the available staffing to do the work. This is a contractor we've had a lot of good experience with over the years, but they're having a challenge, is
Sure.
what I understand, and balancing this job with other jobs that they're doing in the region. So we need to have more discussion before we give you a date.
That's fine.
But it's going to be past the end of July.
But I think that's fine. I just think when you tell them September, you don't want them to get right to that.
No,
Yeah.
I would say,
absolutely not.
anyway, I'm not gonna tell
No.
you what to do,
Yeah.
but.
We had a meeting with their senior
that would
staff
be
too,
horrible.
of the company, not just the project managers, and expressed our disappointment, and
Yeah.
we have offered many things to try to help speed this up, and I mean, it's a good relationship we have with them, but we got to speed this up.
Well,
So
Can
what
we at
we've
least
done-
get that
Well-
light working at Lancaster Drive?
Well, I'll check on it. I'm
yeah,
not exactly sure
I'd
where
like
it's
to know when
at.
that's going to work.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if the drop dead date for a pilgrimage, if we have our sidewalks in and the road done, I don't care about the landscaping, all that other stuff, and this is a horrible time to put that in
They are
anyway.
well aware of this deadline.
That,
Yeah.
I just want functionality.
The landscaping, we've already talked about pushing that anyway.
that's
It's a
not-
terrible
We have
time
to
to put
because of
that
the
in.
summer.
That's
Yeah.
not going to be the issue.
Yeah.
That's not the issue.
No,
And the
no.
roadway, we
don't
know
care
that
about
like
it.
topping, things like that, we've told them that getting the sidewalks in would be critical to us, and they know especially
Sidewalks
the
are
western side sidewalk is the one that goes up to along Harlansdale
Yeah.
is the most critical portion of that.
Yeah.
But they know getting out there and getting crews out there, and part of the issue with us is providing additional leniency with regard to work hours on site. Now's a good time to do that with school being out in BGA. They know,
Get it
and
going.
we told them very directly that us being lenient there also involves you getting out there and taking advantage of that leniency. If we're going to be lenient
right.
with work hours in an area where there's residents, you have to be in there and be smart about that. Get in there, show us that you want those extra hours, and you're going to have the ability to do that. That involves potentially
it.
working on Saturdays, getting extra staff out there. Show us you're going to use those, because we can pull those just as easy as we can give them.
I mean, there's some of the work that's not all that noisy. Would they work at night? I mean, up to like 9 o'clock? Or
That was
That's
part
one
of
of
the
the things we
discussion
talked
we
about.
had is.
Because I
we
would think they
we-
could.
We told them, potentially, we could get you approval to work till 8 PM. I don't know that I'd go to 9, but I said we have to talk about it, and it can't be abused. We can't get complaints. So they're supposedly submitting a request, and we'll talk to Eric about it, but
You know, I think we're,
anything we can do to extend hours, but they got to work.
yeah.
Are we done
gotta
with
get out there
utility
work.
relocate? Is that part of it done? Digging up, we've had what, 11? Is that what it was?
11?
Different,
Where everything addressed utility-wise?
For the most part, there's still some storm that needs to go in on the west side of the road that they're waiting to shift traffic over. Good news is you start seeing the curb and gutter go up. That side's going to go pretty quick, but they still got to do an entire another side, get the curb in, put a few storm drains in. And then I think there's some, minor electrical type stuff they got to do for light poles and everything else. But the bulk of the relocation is done, yes.
Which is the hardest part of the
yeah,
project.
that was what,
For
yeah,
sure.
it was
I mean, it's a
open.
utility
Yeah.
challenge
I mean,
as much
yeah.
as anything.
So are you saying that the bulk of the delay is just due to labor, or is it because of?
That's the
all-
understanding I have after
Yeah. Labor's a big chunk of it.
a couple
Huge chunk.
conversations today.
Have we run into any other issues that held us back? Like
There's been a few
relocation?
things.
There've been some.
There's been a few
Relocation.
things here or there,
There's been
but
some.
nothing that's justifying this type of a delay.
Yeah,
Let me
okay.
say it that way.
Right, yep. I just want
So
some,
we need to have
Functionality.
more of these conversations and work through some things, and we'll give you a revised timeline. But we are very sensitive to what else is going on this fall.
this company.
And the
yeah,
prioritization, but we're working on it.
This company needs to pull some of their people off another job and get this job done because of the pilgrimage. You don't have 20-some thousand people probably near the other projects that they're doing. So that would be something I would think we'd have to talk to them about, because it's unique. It's a time period that it's.
We met this week, and that's exactly what was stated.
Good,
They need to
good,
get
good.
more crews on the job.
Yeah, because there is something happening here. So, all right, any other projects you want to ask
Yes, what's
about?
going on with Margaret's Bridge?
Yeah, we didn't name it after her,
We-
right?
We will, but we have to
will.
wait.
M&M, the M&M Bridge.
We have the appraisals back. We mentioned this last time. We actually have the appraisals back, have title opinions back. Our other right-of-way agent in the Water Management Department is actually had a little bit of extra time that he was willing to help us on that one with us working on some other larger projects. He is actually working to contact property owners right now to get those pieces of property and easements that we need. Once he gets those, and Middle Tennessee Electric has worked with the single property owner to get the easements they need across the street to relocate the poles, we will be ready to go.
Do we have a
Good.
date yet for the Hillsborough MacAtcher work?
Oh,
Your
good.
ramp?
Yeah. Shoo.
We just got
Hazard
a,
jump?
Yeah.
we just got a traffic control plan from them. Adam, do you know the date off the top of your head? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And we literally just got that yesterday, so we're going to put that out. And
Yeah, there you go.
what we'd hoped for.
Yeah.
Now, they've come up with
That's right.
dates multiple times and moved them.
That's good,
So
though.
we're still finalizing the traffic control plan, and we'll get that out via as much social media as possible. And you'll see message boards go up.
The turn lane on McEwen onto the interstate is working wonderfully. And the people are back in the buildings a lot now,
Yeah.
so we're seeing the stacking. And people are actually able to get out of Franklin Park, and get on McEwen, actually get in line to get to turn south. So that's great. I just want to let you know, I've been watching it. It's good.
Good.
You'll see a change order for that one here shortly, and that actually is a deduct, a fairly sizable deduct.
Oh, good. So what's, I haven't asked you about this last time, but, okay, so what's happening with McEwen? Where are we? What's going on?
It's, we're done with all the acquisition from the engineering side. Right now, the law department is working on condemnations.
We
and
went to court.
That's what
How did
we're,
that work?
today?
No, I think, did we go today, too?
There were
We will
some, they
be.
went to court today for a
We
couple of
there were
them. I have
some.
not heard an
Last month,
update.
we went to court.
Yeah, they're going to court.
Yeah.
Well, there's some that are getting rescheduled as well, unfortunately.
So we're,
No rescheduling.
we're at the mercy of trying to get these things through the court system, and as soon as they are, we can proceed on to the next step, which is submitting final plans.
I thought some of the stuff you are not held up with because we know it's going to be condemnation or they have to accept.
TDOT will not,
It is, but we have to go to court
we
to actually
did
get the
not.
order of possession from court first. The condemnation proceeding can still proceed. They don't have to be finalized.
Right.
So the actual value of the property can still be argued in court for years, and oftentimes, like with a TDOT style project, they may be, like with an interstate or a major highway.
that's not-
They go on for years. That does not hold it up. But we have to get to the point where we get an order of possession first.
and that's what we're
That's what we're
basically
working
waiting
So
for.
order of possession,
You get that from the court?
out, yes, but out of all of the orders, how many do we not have?
I would have to check with, I don't know the exact number. I'd have to check with Sean unless you know off the top of your head. Yeah, I would have to check with the legal
And the only thing
department.
that's holding that up is the court dates?
Correct.
We're going through the, everything that needs to go through the court process has been
Is going
identified
through.
and is doing it
Yeah,
right now.
and then there's
It's just
sometimes
the-
kicking us back
You're at the
out.
mercy of the
Yeah.
scheduling
Yeah.
and the,
Right, I know,
rescheduling that
that's
goes on, but
ridiculous.
we're working through that.
And, you know, we know things like the environmental document's going to expire, so we've already started to update the environmental.
I was gonna say, let's
And
not
we're not
let
gonna
anything
date the
expire.
environmental, but the second this stuff happens, suddenly we date the environmental document, submit it to TDOT.
The clock is
We're
ticking.
updated. We've got the
Yeah.
permits filled out, ready to go. Second this happens, we
Yeah.
sign the permit applications and submit them. So we're teed up, ready to go. We just
Yeah.
got to wait for the pitch.
Please don't let anything expire
that'll-
without having them, re-up
Yeah,
it.
we're thinking
in
very
time.
far ahead so that the second we get that notice to proceed, we're making a
Because if
submittal.
one falls through the cracks, then we're sort of kicked back out again.
That'll be another PSA you see shortly as an update to resubmit and get a extension of the environmental document.
Right.
It's a process, not a very long process, but a
Right.
process.
They had the budget, they're already doing
How,
it.
Are they
how
doing
about,
okay? Yeah,
they're
where
already
are
doing
we
it.
with the Jordan Road, Mallory Lane? Jordan Road?
We just got all the utility information back from the subsurface utility information. We're turning it back to our consultant to add those to the plans, and there's a lot of utilities that,
Did you want Jordan Road and Mallory Lane, or did you want Liberty Pike and Mallory Lane? You said Jordan Road, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm doing Liberty
She
Pike and Mallory.
said Jordan.
Yeah.
No, Jordan
Oh,
Road
Jordan
Yeah.
Road. When it's-
at Mallory Lane.
Yeah, so Jordan
It
reaffirmed
goes over
road.
to Aspen Grove.
Yeah. Oh, so we've made contact to all the property owners. We had a few that haven't responded to us. We've had a few that have been problematic. So we're working with law to go ahead and start to
Yeah.
work through the condemnation proceedings on part of those property owners.
We have, how many property owners do we have over there?
I
You know?
believe it's
10?
9 or 10.
It's not many.
It's not many. About 4 of them we've got verbals on, so we're already proceeding with
Okay.
writing up the final
Yeah.
documents for those, getting final contracts written up. So
One of
we're in the
them
middle
is
of the
Boyle.
process.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, we
I
don't.
don't anticipate that being a problem.
They own a lot of that area.
Yeah, and I don't,
They own some of it,
I don't
but-
anticipate them being an
And
issue.
Southern Land, don't they own that other portion or whoever?
Not anymore.
Settlement
Not
Southern
anymore.
Land.
No,
Not
they
anymore.
don't. They-
There's
that's
some that are
sold out.
association,
No.
business associations, which are
company.
extremely challenging because not one single entity can sign off. It sometimes becomes 10 or 11 entities that have to sign off, and you can try to settle those, but you're never going to get anywhere.
And for instance, like we're dealing with the movie theater. The movie theater doesn't actually own the building.
No.
It's
They
a
don't.
corporation out of the Midwest that owns the movie theater building,
they're
so.
tough to
And
deal
we're
with.
dealing with their corporation and the movie theater, so.
Yeah. All right, and then, anything else before we end?
No.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Seconded.
All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson? Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.